Hey, love. This is just a little bit of a PSA. I want you to know that I absolutely love love, right? I think that it is a beautiful thing. I think that having the right partner can do so much for a woman as far as helping her feel safe and secure, and in that safety, being able to more easily achieve her goals, her dreams, her ambitions, and to fulfill her purpose. And I think that we were not meant to live this life alone, right? At the same time, I want to be clear on something. No man is ever going to be enough. Specifically, no man can ever make you feel like you're enough because that is not his job. And when you try to make it his job, you are going to end up disappointed, resentful, and drained every single time. So, welcome to Christianish. This is the podcast for women who have Bibles but don't necessarily have boundaries. My name is Keshia Rice. I'm a dating coach. I am a hypnotherapist. I help women learn how to understand and break free from their unhealthy, toxic relationship patterns so that they can develop healthy new patterns and attract the right love for them. And I wanted to talk about this whole idea of validation, right? Because we talk so much about loving yourself, knowing who you are, knowing whose you are, that you belong to God, all of that. But despite so many messages along those lines, I still see a lot of women who either they're coming to me or I'm seeing them post on social media or, hearing stories from friends or clients about women who feel like they are not complete until they are in a relationship. And again, if companionship, if partnership, if marriage, if those are things that you desire, I don't believe that God is a tease. I don't believe that God put them in your heart for no reason. At the same time, that marriage, that relationship is supposed to add to your life. It is not supposed to be your life, and it is not supposed to be where you get your validation from. One of the things that I've learned is that the women who struggle the most in relationships are the ones who are constantly relying on external validation. And oftentimes they don't even realize that they're doing it. They get dressed up and they wait around for someone to say something, especially that man, right? They're posting selfies on social media and waiting to see if he liked the post or viewed their story. Trying to do everything right, either at work or at home or in whatever situation, and waiting for someone to clap for you and recognize how great you are. And the problem with that is this external validation is addictive. The more of that you get, the more of it you will crave. And at the same time, the more you crave it and the more that you demand it from a man, the less he will give. Because after a while, it is going to stop feeling authentic to him. And it's going to start feeling like he is being pressured. And a man who has that healthy balance of masculine and feminine energy, a man who knows how to, you know, lead and who is whole and complete within himself, he's not going to respond very well to that type of pressure. And, I know that this can be a hard concept to grasp because this was something that I struggled with when I was in my single season before I did a lot of the inner work on myself. I used to constantly think that, like, hey, when I was in a relationship, if I spent forever in a day doing my hair, doing my makeup, getting dressed, then obviously he was going to notice. I was going to get 50 million compliments and all the praise, all of that stuff. And yeah, sometimes I did, right? But there were also times that I went out with, whoever I was in a relationship at the time, and it didn't happen, right? And instead of it being a matter of, oh, he thinks that I don't look great or that I'm not attractive or he didn't care enough, a lot of times when I got to the point of emotional maturity enough where I could ask about these things and talk these things out and say, like, hey, I really feel like I put in a lot of effort and you didn't notice, I would find out that he was thinking about parking, right? Or he was stressed out because of traffic and thinking that we were going to miss a reservation, that there were 50 million other things going on that had nothing to do with me. And if I had focused on the fact that I was with someone who had showed up, who had planned a date, and who was present on the date, but just wasn't as verbal and wasn't as effusive with the praise as I was hoping for, if I had focused on the good qualities, I would have had a much better time, right? And I realized that I was constantly setting myself up for disappointment by allowing someone else to be my oxygen. So I want to be clear that when you are in a relationship with a healthy partner, it is not his job to be your peace, to create your peace. It's his job to add to it. It is his job to enhance your confidence, but it is not his job to define your confidence or give you confidence. And when you are relying on another person to tell you who you are, you have already lost all power in that relationship. Now, that doesn't mean you can't say that you don't like compliments or whatever. You can absolutely tell the person that you're with, hey, I love it when I receive compliments. It makes me feel appreciated. But that's something that you say one time and that you let it go. Someone who truly cares about you will understand that, and doesn't mean they'll be perfect, but they'll make more of an effort. And someone who doesn't want to validate you is not going to validate you, and you should take that as, a hint in itself. I also want you to keep in mind that self-validation is sexy, right? When a woman knows who she is, she knows that she looks good, she doesn't need an audience, and she can celebrate herself, she can celebrate her own wins. That is one of the most attractive things you can be. When you reach a point where you validate yourself and everyone else's validation is the cherry on top, you walk differently, right? you talk differently, and you also attract differently and you attract better. Because people who would take advantage of someone who can't validate themselves, people who would take advantage of someone who has low self esteem, those people are going to show themselves out the door, right? Because they know that there's no point in trying it. So you will attract people who aren't intimidated by your confidence, who appreciate your confidence, who find it attractive, and again, want to add to it. When you validate yourself instead of this is the meaning of that saying, I don't chase, I attract, right? When you validate yourself, you become a magnet to good energy, and you draw in people who match that confidence. So, here's something that I want you to do this week. And I know that it might sound a little silly at first, but I promise you that once you start doing it and creating this habit, it is going to do so much to improve your life. When you wake up in the morning, I want you to look in the mirror, maybe as you're doing your hair, getting dressed, whatever, and say 3 things that you love about yourself. Now, to start, for the first week or so, you can say whatever it is that you love about yourself, right? But after a week, I'm going to add a challenge onto that. The 3 things that you say about yourself can't have anything to do with how you look. So that means that they can be things like, I'm grateful for the time that I took to study this because it helped me with my job promotion, right? Or I'm grateful for how persistent I am because it's led to me accomplishing this. Or I'm proud of how I handled that situation with my friend the other week. I love the way that I show up for the people that I love. So I want you to be very clear on the fact that no man is ever going to fill the void that comes from a lack of self love. And I don't want it to seem like one of these things is a replacement for the other. I truly want you to have self love and love from others, but they are just 2 separate things. And you can't really accept love from other people until you have the self love part figured out, straightened out. So, the moment that you have that love for yourself, the moment that you truly believe that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, you're going to stop begging for validation from other people. You're going to start affirming yourself. And you're going to attract a different kind of energy from men, from friends, in your career, and from the rest of the world. So instead of constantly waiting for other people to notice you, I really want you to notice yourself. And to know that you're the one that you've been waiting for. And of course, as always, if you need my help with doing that, with practicing the self-love, the self-validation, and then with using that to attract better relationships and better treatment from other people, I would love to help you with that. My coaching program, From Toxic to Thriving, I have, I believe, 2 spots open now for clients. So you can click the link in the show notes if you're listening on Apple or on Spotify. If you're listening to this from YouTube, then there will be a link in the description. And again, in the meantime, I want you to practice that exercise. And you can also start in the comments if you are on YouTube with typing one of those nice things about yourself. So I love you so much. I will talk to you soon. Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.